Your Majesty, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. And on behalf of all my Booker Foundation trustees, it's a delight to welcome you back, or indeed welcome you for the first time, to a real three-dimensional, celebratory, sociable, gastronomic, and perhaps for some of you, mildly bibulous Booker Prize evening.
Now it's time to welcome to the stage the Roundhouse resident artist. It's the immensely talented India Shehan performing her song, Don't Wanna.
But I don't wanna see you again. No, not again. Hey, no, not again. Yeah.
Welcome to the stage, the presenter of tonight's live broadcast of Front Row, Samira Ahmed. So Samira, before you start the Front Row broadcast, I would like to challenge you to a literary sudden death.
Can I point out, I've got radio for output in my ear at the same time, so this is like a real multi-skilling challenge, but go for it.
It's like we've all got stuff going on.
Voices in my head.
Ready,
Okay.
set, go. Do you bookmark or fold the page?
Bookmark.
Whew, speed read or slowly savor?
Slowly savor.
Do you use an e-reader or a dog-eared library copy?
Dog-eared library copy.
Do you take it one tome at a time, or do you cheat on your books?
I don't know if you can cheat, but I might read 5 or 6 at the same time.
5 or 6, she's a cheater! Samira Ahmed, that's time!
Thank you so much, Sophie. Hello and a warm welcome to a very special edition of Front Row. We are live at the Roundhouse in London for the ceremony to announce the winner of the 2022 Booker Prize for Fiction in the presence of Her Majesty the Queen Consort, who will be awarding the trophy. The winner will also receive £50,000, and we have some wonderful guests and surprises tonight. 4 of the shortlisted authors are here in person. Elizabeth Strout sadly is unwell, and Alan Garner joins us by webcam from his home in Cheshire. And by coincidence, we will be seeing, well, it's his 88th birthday today, so we might have to do something about that. And here with me are some of the judges, including the historian Helen Castor, the novelist Alain Mabankou, and the chair of judges, the former British Museum director, Neil McGregor. Welcome all of you to the stage. And Alain, am I right in thinking that the decision on the winner was made earlier today? How was that?
It was a nice fight. I wanted everybody to win because I come from a communist country. But I couldn't reach 6 people to win, so we have a winner. You're going to find out.
A nice fight. Was it a unanimous decision? Are you all still speaking to each other?
Oh, yes. We made sure that it's going to be unanimous, and it is.
And I know that we will hear the winner later in the programme, but perhaps some words now for whoever, for the other contenders who won't be going with the trophy, because clearly they impressed you all.
I think that I'm very proud of reading those books. I came from French literature. I teach French at the University of California. And it's very, very important for the Booker Prize to open the door and to let people from French world to judge.
Well said.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Helen, you're a historian of the medieval and Tudor period, and of course we're still thinking about the sad death of Hilary Mantel, who won the prize twice for Wolf Hall, Bring Up the Bodies, was herself a judge. What did she bring to fiction, and historical fiction in particular, do you think?
She brought a ferocious intelligence and an acute sensitivity to what lies beyond the rational. She brought those abilities, those qualities, to an astonishing range of subjects, bookended by what I think are 4 of the greatest historical novels ever written. A Place of Greater Safety, an astonishing first novel, and you read it and you think it doesn't get better than this, and then you read the Wolf Hall trilogy, and then you've got an argument.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we miss her so much. Helen Castor, Alain Mabankou, and Neil McGregor, thank you all for now. And Neil, you will of course be returning a little later to make the winner's announcement. But first, someone who grew up not far from here, the world-renowned singer-songwriter Dua Lipa. No stranger to awards herself, though they tend to be Grammys and Brits. She's an avid reader who recommends the books that she loves on social media and joins us here tonight to say a few words about the power of reading. Welcome, Dua. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Your Majesty, ladies and gentlemen, firstly, a heartfelt thank you to the Booker Prize Foundation for inviting me here tonight. It's such an honor to be amongst some of the world's greatest literary minds to talk about one of the most profound joys in the world, the simple pleasure of reading a book. Reading is a passion that has taken many forms for me. Like countless other London school children, my early obsessions included Roald Dahl and Mallory Blackman, both of whom gave me little pearls of wisdom that still guide me today. When I was 11, my family decided to return to Kosovo. Reading books such as Ismail Kadare's Kështjela or The Castle tested my language skills while also helping me connect with my family's heritage and identity as Kosovan Albanians. Through Kadare, I learned about the Albanian spirit of resistance, that same stubborn determination that keeps Kosovans fighting for international recognition for our independence today. I often wonder if authors realize just how many gifts they give us. Today, touring commitments take me all over the globe, and life is often hectic. Sometimes, just to survive, I need to adopt a tough exterior. And at these times, it is books that soften me. Earlier this year, I launched a podcast, which I love because it gives me the opportunity to speak one-to-one with some of my favorite authors. They make incredible guests because they are so in tune with human emotion, and it's honestly better than any therapy session I've ever been to. Talking to Hanya Yanagihara about A Little Life is a privilege that still blows my mind. I was so immersed in that story, I honestly felt like I lived on Lisbonard Street. She told me that she still thinks about Jude every single day of her life, and I do too. Good writing has the power to make people feel seen and heard, to tell stories that the world has ignored. We all just want to love and to be loved and to find our place in the world, and authors really help us do that. So to each of tonight's shortlisted authors, whether your book was something you wrote solely for yourself, to change the world, or simply because you felt like you had to, thank you for allowing us into the worlds that you create. It really does mean a lot to us readers.
We need to conjure up Alan Garner from Cheshire. I think we might be able to get him up on a screen. Maybe Judrell Bank right next door might help us. Because as I was saying earlier, it is Alan's 88th birthday today. And Dua Lipa, I wonder if you might help us perhaps sing a little something to Alan Garner, everyone in the room. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Alan. Happy birthday to you. And we're going to be hearing from each of the authors throughout the ceremony, followed by readings specially made for the Booker Prize. And you can see more on their website. They are beautifully done readings. They're lovely interviews. So here first is No Violet Bulawayo talking about Glory, which will be read by Nikki Amuka-Bird.
You know, I was raised by a grandmother who told nothing but animal stories. It was our entertainment. And existing at a time when artists are doing interesting things around creating, going back to the past to find new and fresh ways, I thought, you know what, I can bring back this oldest technology and see what writing in 2018 would look like. But I was also inspired by George Orwell's Animal Farm. It's an obvious inspiration. The parallel story of a failed revolution very much felt like Zimbabwe at the time. And of course, it was showing up, it was popping up on our social media. And that really made me kind of sit up and go for it.
Those who were there said just as the father of the nation was feeling his way into his speech, A squad of about 12 stark naked females stormed the podium, seemingly from nowhere. Tolokuti everywhere, udders and breasts and teats and thighs and bellies and backsides and undertails and hips and flanks. Everywhere, unsightly pubic hair. Everywhere, unmentionable female parts of all sorts of shapes and sizes. And just as Jidada Square, caught off guard by this never-been-seen curse, taboo of unbridled female nudity, gaped in disbelief, wondering if what they were seeing was indeed what they were seeing, 2 donkeys raised up a white banner that said, in letters the colour of bright blood, "Sisters of the Disappeared." The rest of the squad carried placards bearing photographs and names, according to those who know about things, of Jidadans who disappeared throughout the father of the nation and the seat of power's reign. The naked females hinded up and down the stage, straight-backed, Tolokuti faces hard and defiant, Tolokuti eyes ablaze, Tolokuti throats roaring in hot, belligerent voices, "Bring back Jidadas disappeared! Bring back Jidadas disappeared! Bring back Jidadas disappeared!"
Nikki Amuka Bird reading from Glory by No Violet Bulawayo. Now, Percival Everett on his novel, The Trees, which is read by David Harewood.
The bodies of the descendants of the murderers of Emmett Till show up dead, these 2 men, one at a time. And at each scene, the body of another man is found, a young Black man. This body disappears from one scene and appears at the next, baffling local law enforcement. No novel is, at least in my thinking, no good novel is about one thing. And lynching as a practice doesn't exist in space without connection to many different behaviors and many other injustices in the culture. So one of those is stereotyping, profiling being the excuse that present-day police use for the ongoing lynchings that we observe. And so I turned the lens around, and the stereotyping goes the other way. It's not fair. These are not real white people that I'm writing about. They're the extreme version, having done to them what media has done to Black Americans for hundreds of years.
At MBI headquarters in Hattiesburg, Jim Davis and Ed Morgan sat at the conference table in the room with big windows. They looked down at a Confederate monument across the street next to the courthouse. "Look at that piece of shit," Jim said. "Looks like a big white dick." "Now that's funny," Ed said. "You think so?" "Stop making fun of white people," the director of the agency said as he entered the room. His name was Lester Safer. He was born in Mississippi, educated in Washington, D.C., and truly believed that Mississippi didn't have to be Mississippi. With him was a tall woman with a serious demeanor. "Men, this is Special Agent Berta Hines of the FBI. It seems ghosts are the business of the feds." Ed and Jim nodded hello. "As far as I know, the Bureau has no interest in ghosts. We are, on the other hand, interested in possible hate crimes." She looked at Ed and Jim. "Good morning, gentlemen. What can you tell me about Money, Mississippi?" "Well, it's chock full of know-nothing peckerwood stuck in the pre-19th century and living proof that inbreeding does not lead to extinction," Jim said. No offense, Chief." "I'll take your word on that," Safer said. "I do want to point out that I'm from the state of Mississippi, and I grew up with these know-nothing pre-Civil War inbred peckerwoods." "So you don't agree that they are stupid miscreants?" Hahn asked. "Oh, no, I agree. You know, it's just that it's okay if I say it, since they're sort of my people. And I guess I don't completely agree." "What don't you agree with?" Hahn asked. "The extinction part. I mean, they're pretty much on the way out."
Here is Alan Garner talking about his novel, Treacle Walker, which will be read by Jarvis Cocker.
My friend Bob, who is a particle physicist, we're having one of our long talks about the nature of creativity, the difference between science and the arts, and we could see no difference. But Bob couldn't get over the difficulty of where do you get your ideas from? And I couldn't explain it to him. And then the next day, as we were walking, he told me that when he was a kid, his mother used to scare him into good behavior by saying if he wasn't a good lad, Treacle Walker would come and get him. Later, Bob found out that Treacle Walker was a real man in the 20s and 30s. His real name was Walter Halliwell, but he was known as Treacle Walker because he claimed to be able to cure anything except jealousy. Its present meaning, the sticky stuff, is recent. In the Middle Ages, it meant medicine. And I said to Bob, do you remember talking last night? And he said, yes. I said, well, just remember, you've given me a book.
Treacle Walker, Joseph Coppock? I know what's the titchiest thing there is, do you? I do not. What is the titchiest thing there is? A dimple on a pimple on a money spider's knee. A dimple on a pimple on a patella of Lynphia. That would be minuscule, I must allow, said Treacle Walker. And can you tell me this? Said Joe. What goes up a chimney down, but not down a chimney up? I cannot. It's a riddle, said Joe. For ashes. No, a joke, see? Ah, said Treacle Walker. But alas, what goes up a chimney down, though not down a chimney up, is beyond my thought. I have no badinage. Guess, go on. I cannot, I concede. It's an umbrella, said Joe. Get it? Joseph Coppock. You are quite the droll. If you open an umbrella, you can't shove it either road, but if you shut it, you can. That is true. Your knowledge eclipses mine. They sat. You really are daft, said Joe. He moved the logs. Treacle Walker? Joseph Coppock? Treacle Walker, am I dead? I will not say that you are dead. Rather, in this world, you have changed your life and are got into another place.
Jarvis Cocker reading from Treacle Walker by Alan Garner. Now, someone who's very much in our thoughts tonight is, of course, Sir Salman Rushdie. He has a very special relationship with this prize, having been shortlisted for the Booker Prize 5 times, winning in 1981 for Midnight's Children. It went on to be chosen as the Booker of Bookers. And in August, Sir Salman was attacked and seriously injured while delivering a lecture in Chautauqua, New York. The novelist Elif Shafak was shortlisted alongside Salman Rushdie in 2019 and joins me now. Welcome, Elif. That attack shocked the world. It must have been horrifying for writers everywhere.
It is indeed. I think literature, fiction, the literary imagination is one of our last remaining democratic spaces. And freedom of speech is like the oxygen we need in order for fiction to survive and thrive. I mean, you don't normally think about the oxygen around you. You take it for granted until it starts to diminish, until it starts to drop dramatically. And then you can't breathe, and then you can't write, and then you feel intimidated. And I think that's exactly where we are right now around the world. The attack against Salman Rushdie was a horrific, despicable act of violence. And it was not an isolated incident. I think all around the world, many writers, poets, journalists, editors, they know what I'm talking about. Words have become heavy. Anything and everything you write, from politics to sexuality to history, questioning official history, can offend the authorities, especially in countries where democracy is shattered to pieces. And if I may very quickly add this, I think it's also worth mentioning that this attack took place at a peaceful, inclusive literary festival. And I believe the perpetrator of this violence not only wanted to silence a prominent novelist, but also wanted to bring fear into our literary festivals. And therefore, I think it's very important that we put even more effort to expand our cultural spaces, to invest in libraries, to put pressure on politicians to invest in libraries and to celebrate diversity, democracy, multiplicity, both within and without, and celebrate the ancient art of storytelling.
Elif Shafak, thank you so much. And now here is Shehan Karunatilaka on his novel, The Seven Moons of Maali, Almeida, read by Prasanna Puwanaraja.
He's in a waiting room and he doesn't know which queue to join. At one point he's holding a piece of paper which he has to take to a counter. This is what the afterlife looks like according to this book. It made sense to me that the afterlife should be as disorganized as the life down here, which maybe one thing explains the other. But also it was a suitably absurd enough situation that I decided to pursue it, because when you're writing a ghost story where the ghost is visible on page 1, usually the convention of the ghost stories, you don't see them till the final act. So therefore I had to explain the environment the ghost was in, and that took a bit of work, took a bit of reading, took a bit of imagination. But this one is the one that made sense, that the afterlife is a bureaucracy, and that's why there are lots of souls who are stuck in limbo, who are waiting for their visa to the next. And, you go to the Sri Lankan passport office today and you will see similar scenes unfolding. And it just seemed a good way to start a ghost story.
You are wearing a safari jacket and faded jeans and cannot remember how you got here. You wear one shoe and have 3 chains and a camera around your neck. The camera is your trusty Nikon 3 ST, but the lens is smashed and the casing is cracked. You look through the viewfinder and all you see is mud. Time to wake up, Maali boy. You pinch yourself and it hurts, less like a short stab and more like the hollow ache of an insult. You are in a queue, shouting at a woman in a white sari seated behind a fiberglass counter. Who hasn't been furious at women behind counters before? Certainly not you. Most Lankans are silent seethers, but you like to complain at the top of your lungs. Not saying your fault, not saying my fault, but mistakes happen, no? Especially in government offices. What to do? This is not a government office. I don't care, Auntie. I'm just saying, I can't be here. I have photos to share. I'm in a committed relationship. I am not your auntie. You look around. Behind you, a queue weaves around pillars and snakes along walls. The air is foggy, though no one appears to be exhaling smoke or carbon dioxide. It looks like a car park with no cars or a market space with nothing to sell. Even close up, the figures look blurry-edged with talcum skin and have eyes that blaze in colours not customary for brown folk. Some are dressed in hospital smocks, some have dried blood on their clothes, some are missing limbs. All are shouting at the woman in white. This appears to be a gathering point for those with questions about their death. The afterlife is a tax office, and everyone wants their rebate.
Now, to the last 2 of the shortlisted writers. First, Claire Keegan on her novel, Small Things Like These, read by Sharon Horgan.
It began as a short story, actually told from a boy's point of view, who goes out with his father to deliver coal. And then my preoccupation shifted to the father and how the father would deal with his own conscience as the narrative went along. I'm not sure that he needs to do good. I think that what he needs is to find out who he is. And those aren't necessarily the same things. And for him, the complexity is in damaging his own family while he's doing good for a stranger. And I don't know if that's good. And maybe the book is asking that.
When he let down the tailboard and went to open the coal house door, the bolt was stiff with frost. And he had to ask himself if he had not turned into a man consigned to doorways, for did he not spend the best part of his life standing outside of one or another, waiting for them to be opened? As soon as he forced this bolt, he sensed something within. But many a dog he'd found in a coal shed with no decent place to lie. He couldn't properly see and was obliged to go back to the lorry for the torch. When he shone it on what was there, he judged by what was on the floor that the girl within had been there for longer than the night. Christ, he said. The only thing he thought to do was to take his coat off. And when he did, he went to put it around her. There's no harm, Furlong explained. I've just come with a coal, Lanav. God love you, child, he said. Come away out of this. When he managed to get her out, and saw what was before him. A girl just about fit to stand, with her hair roughly cut. The ordinary part of him wished she'd never come near the place. "You're all right," he said. "Lean in on me, won't you?"
Sharon Horgan reading from Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan. And finally, here is Elizabeth Strout on her novel, Oh, William, read by Anna Friel.
When I wrote that first book, My Name is Lucy Barton, I thought, well, that's that. And then I wrote Anything is Possible just because I was so interested in the different people that she and her mother were talking about. And then I thought, okay, that's that. And then I wrote Oh, William because I realized, wait a minute, William's got his story. Let's look into that. And then I wrote one more. I think there's something about Lucy and William that they do understand each other in a certain way. And so I think it's perfectly healthy that they are continuing this sort of, relationship at the moment.
Many years ago now, when William first told me about the affairs he'd been having, there was one woman he cared for especially, even though he said he was not in love with any of them. It was the woman he worked with, not Joanne, and it seemed to me that he might leave me for her. We went to England, the four of us. I mean, William and I and the girls, because he thought I'd always wanted to go there, and so we went. But it was shortly before we went that I'd found out about this woman, and the other women too. But as I said, there was this one woman in particular, and one night in London, when the girls were asleep, I went into the bathroom and I began to cry. And William came in and I said, please don't leave. And he said, why? And I said, and I remember so clearly sitting on the floor and holding onto the shower curtain and then holding onto his pant leg. I said, because you're William. You're William. Later, when I decided to leave him, William wept. But he never said anything like that. He said, I'm afraid of being alone, Lucy. I listened, but I never heard him say, please don't leave, because you're Lucy.
Anna Friel, reading from Oh, William by Elizabeth Strout. I would like to welcome Her Majesty the Queen Consort to the stage, along with Neil McGregor, the Chair of Judges. Welcome. Neil, can I ask you to take your place to announce the winner of the 2022 Booker Prize for Fiction?
Well, Your Majesty, ladies and gentlemen, the Booker Prize exists to proclaim the power of the book to change lives and possibly even to change the world. That's why fiction matters, and why, as we've heard earlier this evening from Elif, those in power are sometimes so nervous of it and of the alternative worlds that fiction proposes. But the Booker Prize is also about the quiet pleasure of reading alone and the delight of then discussing what you've read with a group of friends. And as judges of this year's Booker Prize, we've enjoyed both, and in unprecedented measure. It might well be asked today, who needs the excitements and fantasies of fiction when every day we have the incomparable excitements and fantasies of British politics? But the global disruptions of the last few years, the reality of pandemic, war, and social conflict have paradoxically given new edge to the imagined world in which writers explore what it means to be alive today. We believe, and you've all now had a chance to see, that every one of our shortlisted books would be a worthy winner. In different ways, each of them is asking the same question. What is the ultimate value of one individual life? The book that we've chosen takes readers on a journey at once horrific and humorous, beyond life and beyond death, to the world's dark heart. And there, astonishingly and encouragingly, we find tenderness, laughter, loyalty, and love. The winner of the 2022 Booker Prize is The 7 Moons of Maali, Almeida.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Neil McGregor. So, the winner of the £50,000 2022 Booker Prize for Fiction is Shehan Karunatilaka for The 7 Moons of Maali, Almeida. Her Majesty, the Queen Consort, will award the trophy, and a handshake from the chair of judges and a hug from Neil McGregor. And now the trophy from the Queen Consort. And we might just take a quick photograph as well.
Wow. 1 minute, right? I'll try. I'll try my best. Okay. Firstly, thank you to the Booker Foundation, the Booker Prize, to the judges for this inspiring, rich and brilliant long list, and for this spectacular short list. It's been a hell of a ride, and I've been expecting to get off at each stop. No such luck. I'm here at the final stop. To Percival, Elizabeth, No Violet, Claire, and Alan, happy birthday, Alan. It's been an honor and a privilege to be on this magnificent list with you. I'm fans of all your books and fans of you. And without meaning to sound trite, we are all winners for being part of this magnificent short list, though perhaps I might pocket the extra cash if that's okay. I was wondering, can I get that in crypto? Just because the British pound is doing marginally better than the Sri Lankan rupee at the moment, but let's talk later, that's fine. I have many people to thank for this, but none more so than Natanya Jans and Mark Ellingham from Sort of Books. You guys took this on when other publishers found this book weird and difficult and strange, which of course it is. But we took it on and we battled with it over the pandemic, and this is our win. This is our win. I have to thank David Godwin, Kanishka Gupta, Rebecca Weirmouth, Ruth Killick, Philippa and her team, and of course Manasi Subramaniam, Chiki Sarka, Faiza Khan, and Mohammed Hanif, who have advised me and guided me over the years. And mostly I have to thank my first-time readers who put up with so many messy, horrible drafts from me. Deshant Tennakon, Tracy Holsinger, Ravin Fernando, Shanaka Amrasinghe, Michael Myler, Sean Amrasekara, Govindar, John Ramesh Diseram, and Andrew Fidel Fernando. Yes, they all had to do it in shifts because it was horrible work, but thank you for your encouragement and for your brutal notes. The book, 7 Moons, is dedicated to 3 ladies. I live with 3 ladies. That's the kind of rock and roll lifestyle we writers lead. The 3 ladies are Chula, who used to read to me when I was too young to read for myself, Luca, who lets me read to her at bedtime, and of course Eranga, who's here tonight, who reads my stuff before anyone else does. And my wish for the writers in the room and the writers everywhere is that we know how dispiriting and demoralizing a writing life can be. So my wish for you is that you all have 3 ladies, or 3 gentlemen, or 3 non-binaries, or whatever combination you prefer to look after you when the days aren't so good. Thanks to my brother Lalit, who does all my illustrations, my son Theo, who is probably doing the haka in his pajamas at the moment, and my father, who's lost the ghostly realms of dementia, but I know he would appreciate this. To Russell and Sunita Tennakon for their generosity and love, and of course, my lawyers, who are almost as important as the 3 ladies. Aftab Aziz, Datika Vikramanayaka, maybe you should start charging me now. So 7 Moons of Maali, Almeida, it's about a murdered journalist. And I was going to do it Percival Everett style. I was going to read the names of all the journalists, the activists, the politicians, the civilians, the innocents who have been murdered by the state or by those opposing it in my lifetime in Sri Lanka. But if I had done that, we'd be here all night. So I was going to read the names of the obituaries from 1989 when the book was set. Activists like Richard de Soisa, Dr. Rajini Thiranagama, and Daya Patirana, who featured in this book. But if I'd done that, we would have all missed our trains. And I suspect I'm not traveling by train tonight.
I don't think you are, Shehan,
No,
because we've got about a couple of minutes before we finish. And I want to be able to
Shall I wrap up very quickly? Sorry.
No, go on.
Okay, sorry. How many minutes have we got? 7 more?
Well, it's less than 2 minutes. I was going to ask you one question, but please finish.
Do you want to ask me the question? Okay, let me just say this. My hope for 7 Moons is this, that in the not too distant future, 10 years or as long as it takes, that it is read in a Sri Lanka that has understood that these ideas of corruption and race baiting and cronyism have not worked and will never work, and that it is read in a Sri Lanka. Well, I hope it's in print in 10 years, but if it is, I hope it's read in a Sri Lanka that learns from its stories, and that 7 Moons will be in the fantasy section of the bookshop and will not be mistaken, next to the dragons and unicorns, will not be mistaken for realism or political satire. But let me just finally just say to the people of Sri Lanka, this is all I want to say. Me pota mang ogalanta liuwe මේක දිනුමක් රට පරාජය වෙලා ඉන්න කාලෙක මේක දිනුමක් ළඟදී අපි නැමිමිට පැරදුනා කමක් නැහැ. අද ලංකාවේ මිනිස්සුන්ගා දුක් විඳිනවා. ඒ දුක් මිදින්න මට ආයුධ නැහැ. ඒත් මේ ජයග්‍රහණය අපි පිළිගමු. දැන් අපි කොහොම හරි ලෝක T20 කුසලානය දිනාගමු. ඇයි බැරි?
We got the cricket reference in there, I'm afraid.
Yes.
I'm
Ilangai Sondangale Emades Kade Hale Kurvom Kurikonde Irupom. Thank you, Stuti Jayaveva Nandri.
Fantastic. Shehan Karunatilaka. Congratulations, the winner of the 2022 Booker Prize for Fiction. Thank you all for being with us tonight for this wonderful night.